Hey, bud.
That's
It was a piece of technical difficulties this morning.
yeah. That's for sure. There's one thing that frustrates me is when things just don't work that always work.
Okay, so you know what, like electronics and stuff like
Yeah.
that in my phone, if it doesn't work, I don't get frustrated because I go, I don't even know how it works.
Well, yeah, you don't know how it works when it does
So
work.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
When it works, I'm like, oh, cool.
I
And
know.
then, like, if it doesn't, it's like, it's not my fault.
The
It's the internet's
example,
fault.
yeah, the example is the car, your
Yeah.
vehicle.
Yeah.
It's just a car until something goes wrong.
Yep.
As soon as something goes wrong, it's like, oh, wow, this is a pain in my ass.
Yep.
So we had
Yep.
cables not working, internet not working.
Yeah.
Had to go buy a new charger, everyone. We were trying to start this, and we had to stop, and I had to go buy a new charger because
Yeah.
my
It's been one of
computer
those
charger
days.
wasn't working. It's one of those days, man.
It's
all
okay,
good.
though. Yeah, it's
It's all
okay.
good. So on Friday,
Yeah.
one of my closest buddies is getting married in a few months.
Yeah.
So we had to go buy some suits. You don't like dressing up, but
Nope.
I do.
Don't like
I
it at
like
all.
dressing up. So I got a nice fitted suit. I went to this place. I have to give it a shout out. It's called 67 Richmond.
Yep.
In Amherstburg.
Peters.
Yep. You know the guy who owns the old shop. I used to play against this kid actually.
Yep.
And this was your textbook. Like this guy could be head of the Chicago Mafia for like that type of personality, businessman, super chatty, dressed to the nines, about as Italian as can be. This guy loved and loves clothes.
Yep.
Loves clothes. So he dresses.
Well, that's what he says. That's
Yeah,
how he
says. Yeah,
That's
he
how
dresses
speaks.
a bunch of the local hockey guys around here. So he's got a picture of Eki's jersey on the wall, and he's talking about suiting up Paul Maurice and a bunch of local
Peter
guys.
DeBoer and
what was the
buy
goalie?
their suits.
DiPietro.
Yeah.
Before his NHL draft and whatever. So I was asking him about his business and why'd you start a clothing store or whatever.
Yeah.
And he was just like, I just love the clothes.
It's
And
great,
he
eh?
loves the clothes, man.
So I'm going to interject.
Yeah.
So I know Peter well. Used to train both his kids.
Yeah.
And he's a very, very nice guy. But like you said, he's always dressed to the nines, always all that. So, you know, I've talked to you about that you need to be excellent in things. When you see excellence,
Mhm.
it sticks out like a sore thumb, and that's what he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And I've used him actually when I said, when you go buy a suit or you go buy clothes. Remember I've said that before? That's who I was talking about.
Right.
Because when you go into most places, it's very average, very, very average. You go in there, I need a suit, you get a suit, a blue suit. They go, here's our blue suits, and they don't ask questions. They don't, you know, they can't be honest and say that looks good on you, but I can do better, or I can do the same look and save you $100 because I know your situations and have a good conversation with you and make you feel like $1 million when you walk in. You know, that's the professionalism, and that's what I like to do on the ice. Like on the ice last night, you know, I had a couple new employees, and it's like interesting. I think for them, you know, a couple of them said to you, they're learning a lot, but it's like making sure everybody gets something, not just come out and do a shooting camp.
Yes.
It's like learning and, you know, seeing someone struggle and fixing it. It's like, that's value for your money. And so as far as Pete goes, yes, he's like top notch. You know, you almost might go, why do you care so much? But it's like when you walk out of there, you know you got what you wanted.
That's right.
And it's things that fit and you look good, and you know he explains why and all that. It's awesome.
Yeah. So I know he wouldn't mind saying his name's Peter Liardi that owns the shop. He owns two places, and it was exactly that. That's why I wanted to bring it up. Exactly what we just said. It's like that excellence thing. I went in there like I care more about clothes now that I talked to this guy.
Yeah.
And so he was saying exactly. So first of all, it's a Friday night when we go there. Okay. Like this guy wants to go home. Or does he? Maybe he doesn't. So he closed.
Well, but the professionalism is it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
I've got customers here, and I need to make them happy.
So he closed the store an hour before they close or whatever, or when they would have closed, or when he would have gone home or whatever. Had just me and a couple of my buddies in there. Takes 5 minutes to get measurements for a suit.
Yeah.
We were in there for an hour.
Yeah.
Gave each of us a beer from the back. Had a good had a good talk, and he was shooting the shit about all of his, you know, business dealings and how he got into it, and asking him questions and all this stuff. Yeah. Phenomenal experience. So if anyone that listens that's local, that you need to get wedding suits and shit, or even just nice clothes. Yeah. 67 Richmond in Amherstburg. Wow.
Well, so just to go another level again, because I have to.
We always do. Yeah.
My wife is the epitome of excellence when it comes to insurance. Okay. So she manages people and stuff, and I've had an opportunity to listen to her, like when I walk into the house, because she's working out of the house a little bit more now, and talking to her team and explaining how to be an insurance person. It's like, so the example she uses, she goes, we're not, when you got to understand insurance. Now she gets in not debates, but people that the typical thing with insurance is, yeah, you always get screwed with insurance. They take your money and all that stuff. But she has the ability to explain why insurance is so important. So I went from being like the average guy saying, yeah, you pay too much for insurance, to understanding like why. Because like if you buy a car and you pay, let's say $100 a month in insurance, I think that's a lot, but whatever, let's just say $100 a month. And you say, well, over time I'm spending, that's a lot of money over time. But if you wreck that car, it's a $45,000 car. When do they make that money up?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what they're insuring against. So there's one thing. But she teaches her team. She goes, we're not McDonald's order takers. When someone orders, it's not, I would like a Big Mac and you give them a Big Mac. It's, okay, insurance is a very, very important piece. So if someone goes in to buy house insurance and they say, well, I'm just going to go with a cheap $10,000 flooding. She goes, okay, do you understand what $10,000 of flood is? It's nothing. You can't even do the drywall. You can't even do the cleanup. Yeah. So she explains that very, very well. So if she does, you do an excellent job at that. You're someone buying insurance, they sit there and go, no, just give me the 10,000. You realize that, well, if you flood or if something happens, that covers the bare bones. And for $5 or $10 more a year or whatever it is, I'm not an insurance guru, you can have 100,000 and it covers this, and she goes into detail so everyone knows exactly what they have. And then if they choose not to do it, she's done her due diligence. Right. And there's a huge difference because I've never seen that before. When I've bought my life insurance guy is awesome, Paul Liute, unbelievable, the same type of thing. And it's that's what you want to surround yourself with, is people that actually care. Right. Period. Did you have something else? Because I got something for you.
Well, I was gonna go off the insurance thing for a sec, but go ahead.
So speaking of that, excellence. It's funny that we got onto that tangent because you didn't know I was writing this, but this morning I was thinking, we had our group in last night for some of our fitness kids, the older kids, and I just wanted to say to you, and this is for people because there's a message in it. So last night, you already did this with Charlie and Seabass, but you had a group of 6 kids that are like junior level and up that are pushing to go somewhere. And so last night, for everybody here, he laid out it was a meeting. It wasn't a workout last night, laying out the workout and the why and what you expected them to do on their own. And you gave them all the details. And then you went through the nutrition and you gave them their own tasks and to write out what they choose to eat. And you went through a very detailed thing on their nutrition.
Yeah, like the full development.
The full development, and I could see the kids' eyes going. Some of them going like, "Well, I'm not allowed to eat it." Like they went with that way. Like it was this is going to be hard because that's where we default to. Yeah. So, anyways, it was very detailed and it was very good. And then I don't think what the kids actually understand is how detailed and how much work you put in and the time we put into getting the program together. Yeah. But then so for everyone listening, they bought a program for you to work out with them, with a certain group, and it's kind of detailed and individualized to a certain degree. So that's good, and it's X amount of dollars, and it's not crazy. It's just it costs a little bit of money, nothing crazy. So what they should get is that. But what you did is you said, because the point of this is that you actually care, and you like with Charlie and stuff. He's so dialed in with what you gave him with his eating and stuff. It's so nice, but they don't understand the time and energy that you put in and the money that you could charge for this. Mm-hmm. And it's going to just take time out of your pocket, time out of your life to make sure that they're on board. Full well knowing that if there's 10 people that say they're committed, less than half will actually be. Yeah. And that's the chance you take, but it's because you care. Yeah. So I was sitting there last night with a very high level of pride, not because of me, but because you are working with me and you have the same demand for excellence or give a shit meter that you want them to succeed. It's almost to the point where it's maybe more than they do. Yeah. Right? Because you see potential and all that kind of stuff. So that's that. So that makes me like very, very happy because that's a standard that you don't see very often. Right? Yeah. So what I was thinking about that, and when I piped in, I'm just going to say what I piped in is I told the kids, so number one, how many people around Ontario or the world, and I'm being honest, have that level of care when they go to a fitness trainer, a hockey school instructor, a skills instructor, like to go above and beyond. Like to have that is special.
Yeah.
You know, and I know so on the other side of that, yeah, you might get it somewhere, but to sit down and do an individual nutrition plan and have access to someone all the time, it might go upwards of $10,000, and that's just the truth. So they care, yeah, and they're getting in the pocket. So that's number one. So that's what I was telling those kids, and then I was saying that where will you be? Like, so you can look at this plan because I saw the eyeballs going like, okay, so I have to, you know, you set the template. So what I told them after was like, okay, guys, listen, you already do the workout. All we're adding here is 2 things that we want you to do on your own, and that's up to you. And be accountable. Send it to Eric. And if you don't want to do that, like, hey, no problem. But this is what we want from you. So that's on them. So it's like it's not that big of a deal. It's a sprint day and a little bit of a conditioning day that you can do on your own. No big deal. You can do it. So they kind of okay, yeah, that's true, because it seems overwhelming. The nutrition part is we all have intentions of being perfect, but we all know that we're going to fall short. And we talked about that with them last night. It's like you are going to have the intention of doing every workout 100%. You're going to try to eat 100%, but that is just not reality. And like we said to them, because asking for perfection is not possible. Because, you know, like what I said to them last night was, if I tell you that I come in here every day at 6 o'clock in the morning and I give 100% of my workouts, I am a liar.
Yep.
It's not possible. Some days I can only give 60, or some days I not very often, but some days it's just like, I can't do it today or don't want to. Mm-hmm. And I talk myself out of it. So I failed. Right. And the other thing is, like with your nutrition, you might come home and try and you're going to sit there at some time, some place, and your brain just says, no, I'm having the cookies, or no, I'm eating the bowl of pasta, I'm not having protein, and I'm going to fall off the edge. It's not the end of the world. It's start over. But a lot of people will take that and say, well, I can't do this, and it's overwhelming. Yep. So we were explaining to them that you don't have to have perfection, but you don't want to just buckle every time something happens. Yep. And if you do that, like, where will you be in 3 months? Because I know for a fact, I see what people do, and this is like incredible. Like especially when you dial in the eating and the personal training that they get here, these guys will be on fire, man. So I told them, I said, it's not as much as it looks overwhelming at first. Once you start looking at you start preparing meals for the first few days, first week or whatever, and you get your workout and you get your routine, then it becomes automatic, and then it becomes a little bit easier, and it's actually easier to do than not. And don't look at it like this is what I have to do. Look at it that this is what I get to do, so that I can achieve my dreams or pursue my dreams. I put everything into it. Mm-hmm. So I see that little kid at my house, and and my wife says it all the time. She goes like, he's really excited about dialing everything in. And I said, yeah, it's like, because the attitude's on right. And if your attitude's on right, then you look at something like that's a task. You don't look at the obstacle, you look at what you're actually getting out of it. So in his head, he's sitting there going, okay, I was strong last year and I played pretty good, and I'm actually a good player in this league. If I do this, like, he knows how to work hard, but if I just tighten this up and do this to a T, where will I actually be in August for camp? I told those kids last night, I said, if you do this and focus on it and pay the price now, is if you want to call it paying the price, you go into your camp and you're going to impress people. You have no choice. Yeah. You have no choice. So I just want to say that to you. And for the kids that are listening, if there's a message there, I think there was, is like, great job with that. Like, like, great job with that. Yeah. I love it, because that's when I went on the ice last night, that was what I was given to the kids. It was the same thing, right? They don't know it, but I didn't have to sit there with a kid that can't shoot very well yet and actually spend that much time, because I could have easily just said, yeah, just keep working. Mm-hmm. But it's actually important that they go away with something. Yep. And hope and want to come back, and they can say, that guy actually cared about me, and that guy actually wants me to be a good hockey player. So anyways, sure. that was my little thing with that. But it's and then again, the last part of that is what Dalton says is like, you can go and do things that like this, it ain't cool, man. It ain't cool. What Charlie said, he goes, now I got my built-in excuses. I don't. Sorry, I got to eat tomorrow. I got to run tomorrow. I got to work out tomorrow. Can't do it. I need some sleep. Like it is built in, and he's got a reason. Like, and it's like in front of his face, and he's a little bit accountable to you. He doesn't want to be. He doesn't want to disappoint you, which is great. And so that's what's great. And so what's with most people, what they're doing is not cool because it's not Saturday night this or the whatever going out here and eating pizza here and. Right, exactly. That's not cool. But it was kind of cool when he came back to school this year. Yeah, but even just this year, it was pretty cool when he comes back to school and everybody wants to talk to you and find out how this went and you scrapped this guy and what's it like going on the. They want the stories because that's pretty cool now. So if you keep doing this for 3 to 5 years, 10 years, you're cool later, and everybody wishes they would have done what you did. It's a commitment.
Yeah, so that's right. Well, thank you first of all because it is. Yeah. People really don't know, and like how much extra time and how much work it is to put a plan like that together. So it's nice having somebody notice that for sure. But the reason I do it, I was just talking with my Christine about this last night, is because I would have killed to have something like this when I had no guidance.
Yep.
If I would have had somebody say, "Here's an actual good plan is it perfect? No, but is it good? Yes. Is it going to be better than almost anything anyone else does that you're going to be playing against? Yes." I would have died to have that, man. Yep. That would have been, I would have followed it exactly the way some of the top guys follow it. That was exactly what I wanted. And that's what drives me to do it as extra work because I want them to, I said this exact thing to Christine last night we were talking about. I was like, if they don't succeed, it won't be because of me.
100% no.
That's my goal. I want to leave it where it's like, now it's up to you guys. Like I'm giving you an option here. Now it's up to you to do the work and to get the good balance and to have the good timing and to be good enough and all that kind of stuff. But it's not going to be that you were misguided on my part, So that's the first thing with that. And then just a couple points about what you're saying on that. It's about progress, not perfection thing.
Yes.
You'll be way ahead of anybody that you're going against just by progressing through this. Yeah. Doesn't have to be to a T. And the other part of it too is when you're making a plan, just to go on a tangent a bit about it. When you're making a plan for yourself, it's really important that you do things that you'll actually do. Mm-hmm. And that's what I kept harping on when we were talking about, especially the nutrition stuff. Yeah. I said, when you guys are writing out what your meals are going to be, so I'm giving them 4 meals a day to eat. No snacks outside of that. It's like, here's your 4, whatever goes in your mouth is in one of these 4 meals. That's it. So that we have an idea of what's going in the body. And I said, pick things that you're going to eat and that you want to eat. Don't pick what you think I want you to eat.
Yeah.
Right? Because if it's up to me, I would want you to eat 100% clean 100% of the time. Yeah. Because that's what the bar is always, the perfection is the bar.
Yeah.
But for you guys, I don't want you to look at this piece of paper and hate your life every day. I want you to want to do this thing. I want you to feel motivated to do it. I want you to feel inspired to follow it. I want you to feel like this is something that you can actually achieve and do, and you're fired up to do it every day. So by week 4, when now you're in the grind of it, and it's starting to become a bit of a pain in the ass, at least you like what you're eating. Mm-hmm. At least you like whatever about it that you formed because it's yours. It's for you.
Yeah.
So that's one piece of advice I'd give to anybody. If you're making a plan of some sort for yourself, keep it something you'll actually do, whether it's workouts, whether it's food, whatever. So the one example is a lot of them, they'll still eat like cereal for breakfast. Mm-hmm. I'm not a big cereal guy. I would rather have eggs and whatever, but if you want to have the cereal, and then we'll add better things around it, but if you just need to have the cereal in the morning, it's okay. Like have the cereal and we'll add stuff to it. And then over time, like we said, it's not about perfection. It's about the progress. Yeah. Maybe in a year, maybe in 2 years, you realize I don't really want the cereal. Like, man, it doesn't really make me feel that good when I eat it or whatever. And then you make the change later, but you already have things surrounding it. And I'm not making you feel like you're restricted in what you have to do. And you don't feel like you're restricted in what you have to do. So just a little side note about that. Like when you're making any kind of template or thing to follow, it's got to be stuff you'll actually do. Because when you're really inspired and motivated and you just listen to the Rocky speech, and you're like, now I'm going to make my plan and it's going to be the best thing. It's like, okay, that's good that you feel that way, but you want to make it something that you're actually going to do. Yeah. Don't make it so much that you're like, well, I can't do all this stuff. I'm not doing all this, especially for 3 months. Yeah. It's a long time, man.
Yeah, that's what I was saying to him last night. Like even buying clothes, like speaking of clothes, right? Yeah. Is like you can go out there and like as an adult, say you get on a tangent. Oh, need some new clothes, and you go out and buy a whole bunch of stuff, and then what ends up happening, you buy, for me, I wear the same thing all the time. This shirt you'll see me on most of the time, a t-shirt, shorts, jeans, flip-flops, and I do have a pair of shoes here and there, but they get worn very seldom.
Yeah.
Got a couple of clothes that I bought that I'll never ever wear because it's not me. And it's the same thing with your food choices, right? Is you got to look at what do you like to eat. And I really liked when you said that to them last night. Don't tell me what you want me to hear, because you were eating, I think, a banana smushed up in oats and Greek yogurt. And if the kids look at that and say, okay, I got to eat Greek yogurt. Like for me, because I tried different things like that.
Yep.
And I muscled my way through cottage cheese for a period of time. Like, I hate it.
Yeah.
I'm not like, I don't even enjoy this at all. Like I found ways to eat it because, for me, it's just eat the right things. But it's like, I don't want it. So I know what I'm going to eat. So like I told the kids, I said, in the mornings I'll make 4 eggs and come here. Do they taste the best? No, but I hate them. No, it's fine. It's convenient. It works. So do things that work and you'll have some success with it. Right. And I also told them, I'm like, there's going to be things that are going to pop up that you will not be able to resist. So I said last night, I said, if I'm sitting down with my buddies and someone fires out a beer in front of me, it's like you telling me that I'm going to say, no, I cannot have it ever. That's not happening. So I got to manage that. And like, I'm having it. Mm-hmm. Right. It's like I'm having it. And then there's going to be things in front of me. Like if you throw a glass of rye, I'm not having it because it doesn't appeal to me whatsoever. Yeah. Right. So it's very important that what you said to them, it was great. And again, it's like so cool. If they only do, I said shoot for 100 and, if you get to 90, that would be great. But if you get to 70, that's better than most people are going to do.
Seriously.
Yeah,
it's huge. And the other part too is like in here, we talk about environment a lot. You want to surround yourself with other people that are doing the same things as you or have the same goals or similar mindset and whatever. Yeah. And another really important thing to understand on that note of you're going to fail. You're gonna fail. Right? You're gonna fail. You're gonna mess up
every day.
Yeah. Like there's gonna be times where your workout sucks, your eating sucks, you went out instead of going to bed, like all that happens. Yeah. All that's going to happen. But the thing that's important to understand is, especially if you have someone who's helping guide you, this was the other thing I said to them along the same lines as, don't tell me what you think I want to hear.
Yeah.
Is you also need to understand that I'm on your team. Like we're on the same team.
Yeah.
So if you mess something up or something goes wrong, you need to be able to tell me. Like, don't feel like I'm testing you or like you can't tell me the thing that went wrong or that you messed up or whatever. It's because I'm on your team. I want you to succeed. So if I'm measuring your weight and your body fat every Monday and we're seeing no changes, but you're adamant that you're teeing on, like you're right on your diet, like I know you're not, but if you don't tell me now, I can't make an adjustment with you. I can't help you to solve that problem. So that's another piece of it that's important too. It's like if you have a good network around you or you have a good environment around you, then you're going to be with people that can help you overcome those times when you're going to fail, which is going to happen. It's 100% going to happen.
Well, the other thing that I said to them too was there's going to be days where you fail and it wasn't your fault. You might be, your mom and dad might be dragging you to some kid's baptism. And there's the buffet and that's where we're staying all day and you're eating cake and all the junk food. That's not necessarily your fault, but you got to do your best. And there's gonna be other times where you're gonna come home and say, Mom, I can't eat craft dinner and hot dogs today. That's not on my plan. And she's gonna say, hey, why don't you shut up, because I've been working for 2 weeks straight and I haven't got to the grocery store and I just didn't have time. So just eat it, you little spoiled rotten, no good for nothing kid that is entitled and have no idea how life works.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you go in the box and feel shame for 2 minutes, right? And or mom and dad might be in a financial situation where they're like, sorry, I can't afford it. Okay, you little entitled kid.
Yep.
So like there's things that do come up and it's not the end of the world. You just regroup and you start over. So that's important.
Well, now that was a really good question when the kids asked too, just as a last thing. He was saying, what happens if I have a family thing, or what happens if, and those,
you're
those
the kid.
Things.
Yeah.
Well, and you know what? And I said, there's two ways to look at that problem, right? And I think this is really important too, is on the one hand, especially when you're not an adult, where you're not the one driving yourself, you're not buying yourself, you're not doing all that kind of things for yourself. Sometimes you're just going to have to make do with what you got, right? So if I put chicken in your meal plan, but mom made a roast or hamburgers or whatever, you can
spam.
Spam. Yeah. You can sub the protein. It's okay. It's not going to be the end of the world. That's one thing. Second thing, let's say your family decides to go out for dinner tonight. you can make a better choice at dinner.
Yeah.
Right. That's the second thing.
Yeah.
So sometimes you got to deal with it. That's one.
Yeah.
Second thing is, just because you're going out for dinner and you can't control it, it's not a free pass to go, oh, well, we're going out for dinner, I'm just going to pack it in for this meal. It's like, no, you can still make a better decision.
Yeah.
Instead of getting the burger, fries with a milkshake, you can get a better choice off that menu. Every restaurant has a better choice you could make, you know, that more or less will align with what you might have had anyways.
Yeah.
That's another thing. And then the last part of it on the extreme end is there's going to be times where you're offered the distraction or you're offered the obstacle, and you actually do have the option to say no. And you have to be able to say no. And you're going to get pressure from mom and dad. You're going to get pressure from grandma, grandpa, sisters, friends, whoever. Like, one thing we always have is on Sundays, we have the big family dinner. Nadia puts on a spread, and it's the best thing ever. And you know what I want to do is I want to eat it, and I want to eat a lot of it. And every Sunday, though, no, you can't do it. No, you can't do it, because that doesn't mean you can't eat the meal, but it's not have a heyday now. That's the difference, you know? So sometimes there's that whole spectrum of things that can happen. Sometimes you actually have no choice. You go on vacation, what are you going to do? You only have what you have. Yep. You know, other times you can make a better choice with what you have. And then other times you're going to have to just say no. You have to be able to sacrifice those times when you can afford to make the sacrifice. You have to be able to do that. Otherwise, your progress just stays the same, especially when you're talking about body composition stuff. Like, these guys want to get bigger, stronger, faster, or some guys want to lean out or whatever. Like, sacrifice is part of the deal, man. Like, it's just part of the deal. If that's what you want and you want to reach, you know, whatever the goal is that you think you have, if you actually want it and you're not just saying, oh, it would be nice to, you have to do the
everything
sacrifice.
would be nice. Everything would be nice, but that's not the way life works. Right. You're competing for the hardest thing you're probably ever going to do if you're actually competing for it, and nothing's easy about it. Yeah. But at the same time, it's you live a healthier life. But the last thing I was going to say about this is, you never know, like, if our players follow this, or people listening take a bigger interest in their workouts and their off season nutrition, sleep, and all that kind of stuff. The worst thing that could happen is you create some really good habits.
Yeah,
and it was, you know, some good habits and confidence, because what that is by doing 50% of what we're talking about, you're going to get better. And if you get better, you're going to say, okay, I did this, this, and this, and it gives you an inner confidence that you actually can do something, and you see results with something. So these kids at the end of the summer, if they actually dial in, you have no idea what a good off season can do for you. Like, your skill level and all that stuff outside of doing your skills on the ice, it is what it is. Yep. But by getting those legs super powerful and mobile, and you know, injury prevention, all that kind of stuff, and lean and stronger, you have no idea where that can take you. Like, it's a huge difference, man.
Exhibit A, man.
Yeah.
Well, and even outside of hockey, that's the other part of it too. It's like, even because we always talk about this, like, most of you guys are not going to be hockey players. Like, sorry, that's the reality. Yeah. But going through this stuff, that doesn't mean it was a waste of your time.
No.
You wake up every morning in a good mood. It's like, that's not a bad thing. You wait because you have good sleeping habits, you have good eating habits, you're working out and feeling good and all that stuff. You wake up in a good mood. It puts you in a good space for other life things. You know, when you go hang out with your girlfriend, you're in a good mood. You're not a pain in the ass.
Well, and it's the pursuit of a goal.
Yeah,
like, these are lessons, right? These are lessons by doing something, being driven in something, and paying whatever price it is, or whatever you think it is, and sticking to it. I mean, this is just healthy for life.
Yeah, for sure.
In every way. Yeah. Right.
Well, that actually that ends up really kind of going into the topic we're going to talk about, actually. But if you want to do your other part first, or do you want to finish with that?
I'll just do that, and it'll leak into this. So I was especially was watching hockey, and I was just talking to O-Dog about it today, about just talking about a couple players and how people have labels almost, right? And I was thinking, I got quite a few players in the NHL, but the trend that I see a lot of times is people have labels. Like, for example, one is called compete, right? I've seen guys that, I mean, this happens, they don't have to be my guys, but someone gets identified as a competitor when they're 14, 15, 16. It's like, are they though? Like, what makes them a competitor? Because a lot of the times they're just better. Like, if you happen to be bigger, stronger, faster, and maybe more skilled at 15 years old, and you're playing you're just playing like everybody else at the same compete level, like it might appear that you have a better compete because you're might be like all those attributes and you're bigger, stronger, and then maybe once in a while, like some guy comes around, and you turn it on a little bit, and you compete at a different level, but because you have the ability to.
Right.
But when you get to, so I've watched a couple of my guys this year, and I'm like, I don't know if he has that compete. I don't know. I don't think it's what you call compete. Yeah. I really don't. I see you competing on the ice like you're playing, but I don't see like compete. And who the hell am I to say what is compete? You know what I mean? Like in reality,
it's a little bit NHL, subjective. Yeah.
Yeah, it's totally subjective, and it's like it is competing. Like, is my level compete? You're blocking every shot and you're laying it on the ice every single second of the game. Like, that's probably unfair, but you do see guys that are competitors. Like when I look at Sidney Crosby, I think there is not a shred of doubt that he's a competitor. You see it in his eyes. You see it in his body language. You see him going that extra, doing that extra every single time, and like furious when things are not necessarily not going his way, but like just absolutely give me a raw steak with nails in it. That's the type of guy I am. Like, I need to win and I need to be the best. Like, he's so driven for it. I think Connor McDavid has shown this year in the playoffs that he's turned a different level of compete. Like, he's kind of throwing his team on his back. Still early, but wow, is he competing? He's out there throwing some hits. And it's like, okay, that's where I see the compete is like he's doing more than what he is actually asked to do.
Yeah. Stamkos, another one.
Stamkos blocking just getting injured, and Corey Perry blocking shots. Like that's what I see compete. So I just think a lot of the times people get labels, and it's too early. And then going back to what we talked about in the offseason is like you don't know what's inside someone, right? Things can change. So putting a label on someone early or late or whatever, a negative or positive, it's like they're not necessarily.
Yeah, it can go either way, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, because like I was just thinking of another guy, and he's gonna be so happy that I said his name. We've got a guy in here who's here last night, Griffin Grunder.
Yeah.
And this kid was drafted to Saginaw a little bit later, and I went to bat a little bit and bragged about him to some teams, and there's a couple that were really interested in Saginaw
to watch.
And taking him. And I could tell you without a doubt, and you were there with me several times, this kid plays, and he's what, 5 right now? What is he, 5'7"?
Yeah, I mean 5'7", 5'8".
102 pounds?
Yeah, seriously.
He hasn't developed as a man yet. But this kid, every single shift, I honestly haven't seen him lose a battle yet. And he's playing against some big boys. And I guess he had a pretty good, development camp and all that stuff, which I don't really care about. I'm just happy that he did. But to me, that kid competes because he's just, and it's not, see, I'm careful how I say this, because just because you're smaller and just because you're the runt of the litter sometimes doesn't make you more of a competitor necessarily than a big guy that does the same thing. It's just maybe more impressive. But at the end of the day, because he is going to grow a lot and he's going to fill out and he's going to have that tiger in him. And I can't wait to see it. I honestly think, because he's got good skill too, I think sky's the limit with this guy. And I'm really, really excited about watching him in the next 5 years.
Yep. Yeah,
3 years, sure. 5 years. But that's, to me, that if you say that kid's a competitor, I say, oh yeah, that guy can compete. But it's like when a guy is good already and better, like we talked about Mike Tyson the one time, like a lot of people say he's the greatest fighter in the world. And then, I forget what trainer it was, says I disagree with that totally, because when he was actually against real competition where it wasn't just he can outperform a guy, when someone was in there for the fight, you'd see him bite an ear or find a way to lose, to end it early. Yeah. And who am I to tell Mike Tyson that he can't fight?
Yeah.
But the competitive nature,
we're not saying
there's guys out there that will do what it takes, no matter what, under any circumstance, no matter how big, how small, and that's what Griffin is, and that's what Sidney Crosby is. That desire, right? It's so I just wanted to say that. And you look at any part of your game, a lot of people label you, and like could use Seabass for example. It's defensive forward, smart, intelligent, but that doesn't mean, because you have that label, defensive forward, smart, intelligent, reliable, that doesn't mean that Seabass can't go down the ice and rip 4.
Yeah.
Right?
Or go
Doesn't mean
crack
you
somebody.
can't. That does not mean
Yeah.
that you can't get 30, 40 goals. That's just the label you have on now. So that maybe it's the competitiveness, maybe it's the skill, maybe it's the confidence, maybe it's something else, but that desire that, okay, I have this that I'm really good at and I'll continue to be good at, but I am adding this because I want to be more than just one blanket statement. And I'm going to prove all you guys wrong that I can do more than this. And how do you do that? Well, maybe it's just shooting pucks, maybe it's focusing on getting your nose dirty, getting to the net or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe you get a guy, he's labeled soft. Well, soft doesn't mean soft forever, right?
Yeah. I was out for sure.
Some guys don't know what soft is or what you're supposed to be, right? So someone that could be soft, maybe, I'll tell you another thing. I played junior with some guys that were considered maybe a little bit on the softer side, or maybe I wouldn't say that as a statement, but they didn't have penalty minutes or weren't really rough and tough. But then when they got to pro, you'd see them with 200 penalty minutes. Like, where'd that come from? So labels can change.
Yeah.
So because someone at 16 or 17 or 13 gets labeled as this, that means absolutely nothing. It just means that that's someone's opinion now. So, don't take someone's opinions and make them your reality. You don't have to listen to that.
Yeah.
You don't. And I really think that's important for people to see. No one sees what's inside you. Like the same with the workouts, right? No one knows what's inside you. When you decide to to make a decision and you want something more than anything in life, then no one can stop you, man. No one can stop you. And I think that's really important, that don't give yourself a label.
Yeah.
Be what you want to be, man.
Yeah. And I remember that was something that happened to me for sure. And unfortunately, even when I was older and I started to change it, I didn't have a lot of guidance in the way that I should be playing from a hockey standpoint. But I was that kid all the time. I'm a nice kid. That's what I always got. I'm a nice kid.
Yeah,
it's like I'm not trying to. Wasn't super physical when I played. I didn't really have any bite to me too much. I was a nice kid. That was my thing, and it started to piss me off. And I remember, and honestly, and then when I was like I was tired of it, and I was like grade 9, 10, 11. So then I started fighting guys. I started on purpose because I was like, I'm not just a nice guy.
Right.
Like, I'm not soft. I'm not a soft kid.
Yeah.
And I remember the first couple of times I started cracking some guys, and then I'd get a black eye myself, or I'd give another guy a black eye, or somebody be bleeding, or I'd be bleeding, or whatever. And then I'd be like, okay. And then next thing you know, my second year junior, I had 30 goals and 90 penalty minutes a year.
That's pretty good.
Right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately from there, I didn't end up channeling it into that type of all over the spectrum type of player.
Yeah.
But that would have been, if I could go back and do it again, I would have identified that I could do that and kept that going. But it speaks to the label thing. And the way you said it to me yesterday too, is you don't want to box yourself in, and this is different from, because we always talk about knowing your role. So I want to talk about this a little bit with this, because you might think we're saying two different things here, right? Like on the one hand, we say, you got to know your role and you got to know your 3 things that you're good at and whatever. And now on the other hand, we're saying don't put yourself in a box, or don't, and those things aren't to be confused. You can have your role and you can have your strengths, but that doesn't mean you're limited to just those things.
Absolutely not.
And that's kind of what we're going at. But you take a guy like Seabass, like you said, a guy like Charlie, or even a guy like Griffin, where it's like, okay, this guy, or the examples you gave of the NHL guys, Connor McDavid is a playmaking point guy.
If he doesn't finish a hit, no one's going to say a word.
Exactly. Period. Same Stamkos. If he doesn't block a shot, nobody says a thing. Yeah. It doesn't matter,
He had a free ride.
But he's choosing to go outside of what his role is, let's say, and contribute to the team in a different way.
Team winning.
And that's the way to think about it. We're not saying that's how those things can line up together, right? You can still have your role, you can still have your strengths, but that doesn't mean you're limited to just that, and you can never step outside of that and do something else. If you're a power forward that is supposed to go up and down the wing, get your shot, finish a hit, and get off, but the one game you see you have a lane that you can take where you can drive it to the net and make a move or whatever, take it. Yeah. You can still do that. You still...
and it doesn't mean that you don't have, because you're a power forward and the role is to basically go in straight lines and to finish a hit or whatever. That doesn't mean that you don't have agility anymore.
Yeah, or you can never use your skill.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that you have no skill at all. Right. I mean, at all.
Yeah, so it's important.
But the premier role that you're playing is that and that, but you can add. You can put cherry on the cake or chocolate chips in the cookies. Like, you're allowed.
Yeah, well, and this is how you get a guy that's like Alex Killorn, we were talking about the other day, or Patrice Bergeron. These guys where it's like, they're in the top 50 in the league in points, but they're also the number one penalty killer, number one faceoff guy, have whatever, however many block shots in a season. Like, this is how you get those guys. They had their role or whatever, and then they started to bring other elements into their game, you know? And then you talk about them as like an all-around player, and now like that's their role, where it's an all-around player. So it can be a fluid thing. It doesn't have to be you're stuck in a box, you know. And sometimes coaches will try to put you in one too, right?
Oh, this is my point. Yeah. This is totally my point. Like, people see what they want to see. Like, just because someone coaches in the National Hockey League or the OHL or college does not make them the best coach in the whole world, and they know everything about everything. There's different reasons why guys get hired. It could be, you know, the hockey network, the world's small. That's, you know, it could be that. It could be they hang around enough and they get their opportunities. It doesn't make them anything. And that's why, like, so speaking of that, you'll get a guy that coaches, right? Montreal Canadiens did it this year. They hired, what's the guy's name?
St. Louis.
Martin St. Louis. Well, that's right out of the box. Okay, well, let's hang on. You're not supposed to do that. He can't be a good, like, basically, if you go on everybody's philosophy of, you know, labeling people, well, he has zero experience coaching in the NHL. How can you? You're supposed to, because we hire experience, blah, 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 blah. Right. Well, he came in there. He knows the game. Seemed to work out pretty good this first half of the year, right? We'll see how it goes long term, but he changed it. John Cooper, right? He never played, really. He started coaching. He was a lawyer, started coaching, and he was one of the best coaches in the NHL. So people put you in boxes, but then you prove them wrong. Yep. And it's your belief in yourself that you do it. So you can't listen to everybody all the time.
Yeah.
So, like, and that was my point of that, is like, just because someone, you can reinvent it. Bobby Orr did it, right? You were a defenseman back then. We're supposed to stay at home, move the puck up, and hammer people, more or less. Mm-hmm. And then Bobby comes along and skates up the ice and controls the puck the whole game. He revolutionized it. So when that comes along, then everything changes. The rules don't apply anymore. Ty Domi, sure. when I played against him, people said, "Oh, you can't play." No, he could play, man. He could play. You know, anybody that thought Ty Domi was not a good hockey player, I played against him in junior. Only because he was on the other side only a couple times a year, and he was miserable to play against. Why? Not because he was beating you up, you know, punching you in the head. He was doing that, but every shift he was hammering guys. And he would have the puck, and he could make plays, and he would go to the net, and he did things as a hockey player. That's why he played a whole bunch of years in the NHL. Yeah. So that the labels, you know, you can accept them if you want, but you can add tools to the toolbox.
Yeah, and my favorite is when you see those NHL guys that, you know, they break that mold. They learn that, you say, like, they learn how to win.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Where we were talking about this yesterday, is like the guys, a lot of guys that come in as like those top skill players, they still have to learn how to win, is what people say. You know, they got to learn how to win. And I remember a few. I don't know if Ovechkin would really count. I still can't really tell with him. It goes that competitive. Is he a competitor or not? Nature. I don't know if Washington was just really good or if he learned how to win necessarily. I didn't watch enough of it to have an opinion. By the way, another 50 goals. Like I said yesterday,
God,
that's the quietest 50-goal season of all time. Everyone's talking about Matthews hitting 60. This guy got 50 again.
Yeah, again. He's 107.
This guy's gonna pass Gretzky.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
Yeah,
can't believe it.
It's absolutely incredible.
But I love when you see a guy like Steve Yzerman was my guy growing up, whereas he was one of those top end talents, and then all of a sudden he's now blocking shots and more responsible defensively, and they talk about, you know, them learning how to win. Yeah. You know, and this is gonna kind of be my segue into the topic. I think it's more you're learning how to win, but I want to talk about like learning how to lose. Yeah. You know, it's important that you learn how to lose, and you see that with a lot of those guys where they, you know, have a really good team, win the President's Trophy, lose first round. Yeah. Go next year, they go second round of the playoffs, lose in the conference final, and you can see that with that same core, they slowly kind of figure it out. Tampa Bay is kind of the one that's on top right now, where that core kind of figured it out from a few years ago. You saw same thing; they made it to the first round or won President's Trophy, got out, and then made it to the conference final, lost, and now they're a top dog where they kind of learn how to get to the top of that. But I wanted to talk about the learning how to lose thing today, because I think it's important. I don't really understand what people are talking about when they talk about losing. Something I remember people always saying to me was, you need to hate to lose. You know, you need to hate to lose.
The term is a lot of times is you got to hate to lose more than you like to win.
Yeah. That's another one that they would say. Yeah,
those are words.
Yeah,
I don't know about
well,
that.
And this is what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
The hate to lose. You got to hate to lose. Like, what does that actually mean? So if you're gonna say you need to hate to lose, what does that mean? So if you're one of those dads, or if you're one of those coaches, and you're somebody who's saying that to your team or you're saying that to your kid, because I remember this is something that we used to get smacked when I was playing AAA. We were so shit, like we were terrible. Up until I was about 14, we would lose. We'd go play London and lose 11-1.
Yeah,
we'd lose to Chatham, who was terrible, also 6-1. We would get smacked by everybody. And I remember in the car ride on the way home, like we would always carpool with somebody. My dad and whoever I was with's dad would be like pissed, like they'd be livid, and we'd be in the back seat, whoever me and the other player was, and we'd be like kind of embarrassed because we lost. But then it was like we'd be on the way home, and it's like it'd be over, and we'd be moving on. And I remember on so many occasions, dad's looking back, me, aren't you guys embarrassed? Like, don't you guys hate that you just got smacked like that?
Nothing you could do.
Yeah. So I want to talk about kind of what your thoughts are on the hate to lose, because I have my own thoughts that I can get into in a sec. But when people say hate to lose, it's like, what does that actually mean? What are we talking about? You know?
Yeah. So my first thoughts of that is I think people say things because they heard it.
Yeah, that's right.
I do. Yeah. I think people just repeat what other people say because it might sound cool or might. I really don't, not to be an ass, but I don't know how many times people actually think about what they say. And to me, like, I guess I probably never, I get part of it because you don't want to be a loser.
Mm-hmm.
But let's be honest, you're going to lose a lot more than you're going to win.
Yeah.
In everything.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I can call myself, like talking about competitor, I don't know if I can call myself a competitor because, Ryan Donnelly, we were doing a, what do you call those, psychological analysis of yourself? And he goes, I guarantee you're going to be a competitor. And I said, I guarantee I won't. He goes, what do you mean? You played hockey, you coached, you had a business and all that. I said, that has nothing to do with competing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you could do all these things because you just enjoy it or whatever. I don't know. But anyways, I had a little bit of compete in me, but I was hated to lose. There's no way I'd be able to sleep because I lose every day. Every day, all the day.
Yeah.
Someone doesn't come back as a customer, that's losing. Someone starts another business like mine. It's like I don't snap.
Right.
I got to deal with it, and that's just kind of part of life. Now, I do like to win.
Right.
And it doesn't like drive me to no end. But so anyways, let's go on back. Hate to lose. I don't know what that means, to be honest with you. Hate to lose.
Right.
I mean, when we do workouts and stuff now, for me, it's like I come to the realization, even though I don't like to speak this way, but I've come to the realization that at my age, 53, there's some things that are going wrong, right? Like I said, my shoulder, elbow, my quick bursts of everything is just it's not fast twitch like it was even 2-3 years ago. So physically, I can't compete with you guys anymore, right? I try,
mm-hmm.
but it's like to the point where I'm gonna lose, man. If you and Dalton and Charlie do like one of our metabolic circuits, I'm gonna lose. I could try all I want. So do I hate it? No, I've accepted it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily like it because I do want to.
You would like
keep
to
up,
win,
but I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah.
But hating to lose to the point where the problem I see with it is a lot of people do it. When you hate to lose, if you do it in the right way, I think it's fine. Like if you've competed and you're on a somewhat of a level playing field, right? And you've competed as hard as you possibly can, and you've lost because someone was just better than you, or they whatever, they're better than you. You can hate losing in that way because you gave it everything you got. Like I understand, like I gave everything I got and I just wanted to come on the other end of it. That makes sense to me. But what I see a lot of the times is people are told that they should hate to lose, and they come out like with excuses, like, well, they're whiny little.
Is exactly what I'm getting.
Yeah, they're whiny. They're bitchy because they think they're supposed to. But if you actually gave everything you possibly can, there's nothing really that you can not like it, but
And this is kind of this is what I'm getting at, right? So because what I see when people say that is like, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to be really mad? Like, do you want me to have a temper tantrum because we lost? Yeah, like, what do you want me to do? What do you mean by hate to lose? What are you expecting me to do when you say hate to lose? So to me, it's so non-specific that it doesn't mean anything. Hate to lose. What does that mean? So if I come out and I'm so mad and don't talk the whole car ride home, is that like good? Is that I do a good job because I hated it so much that I didn't want to talk? No, that's not actually useful in any way. You know,
well,
so
it goes against mental toughness, to be honest with you. Well, and this you're letting it just sit in your crawl the whole time.
Right, and this is what I'm saying. So am I supposed to show that it's eating away at me? Like I just can't take it? And I don't think that's useful. I don't think that's helpful. And I don't think it's a good way to frame it. And I don't think it's a good way to teach kids about what losing is. Or anyone, not just kids, even for yourself. So that's kind of what I'm starting to get at. If you're a coach or you're a dad and you're saying that to your kid, it doesn't mean anything. And it's important that they learn how to lose. And they learn why losing is valuable and why it's important to be able to lose.
Let me ask you a question then. Is it better to just, because the other side of not losing ever is playing on a team that always will win?
Well, this is exactly what my next point is going to be, right? So if you're playing, I was literally just about to say this.
Oh,
way to go.
Well, nice brain.
Hey, brain, freaking on track. Yeah. So we talk about the super teams all the time, okay? So here's an example of what I think about hate to lose. This is exactly what I think of when I'm thinking about who hates losing. So you take the super team of 13-year-olds that they've won every game, and then they lose in the finals of whatever the tournament is. They're down 3-1 with 5 minutes left in the third. Kids start hacking kids. Kids start yelling at each other on the bench. After the game, they're yelling excuses, like you said. The coach comes in and reams them out because they lost a game. That's what comes to mind for me when I think about hate to lose. So if you're the kid that always wins or you always get it your way or whatever, is that better than losing sometimes? And I don't think so, because like to your point, you're going to lose. It's going to happen. 100%. So if you haven't figured out how to handle it, how to use it to your advantage, and how to learn from losing, then you're going to be that kid, exactly what you just said, or that dad, or that coach, or whatever, where you just have a temper tantrum and it's not constructive. Now, that doesn't mean you can't be disappointed that you lost, or you can't be upset that you lost, or you can't even be a little bit angry that you lost. But as long as you're able to deal with it in a way that's constructive and useful for yourself, you know? And that's what I was going to say about the team thing that you're mentioning there, right? If you're the team that always wins, we see it all the time. You end up with these entitled, spoiled brat kids that have clearly never had any type of adversity at all that they've had to try to deal with. And that's not better for them. It's not better. It's objectively not better.
I don't know what you learn from just showing up and being better than people.
Right. You know?
I don't know what you learn. And I think that might be, I'm just throwing it out there. I think that when guys learn to win in the NHL or junior or college, whatever, when they come from the big centers with super teams, I think that's might be part of the lesson of learning how to win, is that, you have to learn how to lose too. And it's not like some people say you have to lose to win. That's not necessarily true either.
Exactly.
But it's an interesting concept, because the other side of it is if you run the Philadelphia Flyers, you're the owner, you're the GM, and it's your job to assemble the best team. I can actually maybe understand hating to lose a little from that perspective, because you're assembling the actual team, and your decisions go into a lot of the outcomes.
Yeah.
Like, so Ryan Ellis plays for the Philadelphia Flyers now, and there's only so much he can do to make that team win, I think. Right. It's got to be the whole assembled team. So maybe I think the guy up above, I don't even know if the coaches, but more the GM and the president and stuff that put the team together, I could see where they're like losing their shit because they made a whole bunch of maybe poor decisions, or what do I have to do to get this team past the hump? The players are going to do whatever they can, or you think they would.
Yeah.
But I think maybe another perspective there is that when you have, I guess whatever your role is, you want to win at that role, right? So I think that maybe collectively turns into a team win and GM win.
Well, and I think the other thing I was going to say is, or what I wanted to move into is, actually, you got another one.
Yeah. So that's a really hard subject to actually wrap your head around, because when you there's different points in your career and stuff too, right? So I'm going to use Seabass and Charlie for example. So they go into the OHL for their first year, and like, are you supposed to carry the team at 16, or you're the NHL at 12? Like, how upset are you actually about losing? Like, how upset actually can you be? Because you're when you're a first year guy or a limited role, the only thing that you can really do is do your role the best that you possibly can. Because and it might make a big impact, might not. But that's all you can do. And if you walk away from that and you've lost, then what are you really supposed to do? Yeah. Right? If you're the captain of a team and you have a huge role, then I think you feel a little bit more responsibility. But then again, as a player, you have to look at, you try to get everybody up to the same level, but there's only, your hands are tied to a certain degree. So when you say I hate losing, I get it. Now, so I'm going to use Seabass for an example again, okay, and the Saginaw Spirit this year. So I got a couple friends that, like Brian Prout that runs the team on there. I met the GM and talked to Seabass quite a bit about it this year, and they didn't have a great season. So I talked to Brian and Dave Drinkle, who was saw him one day after the game in Guelph, and when I spoke to them, like, they come out with this season, and it was like almost like not making excuses, because this is not, I don't want this to come across negative, because it's not negative at all. It's just reality. Because you're losing and you're not having a great year, it's almost like you have to explain it. Does that make sense?
Yep, totally.
Right. So
you gotta come up with reasons.
Right? Yeah, and it's Jesus. This is not negative at all about they're wonderful people. So like I said to both of them, and if Drinkle hears this, he's going to maybe remember the conversation, maybe not. But Brian definitely did, and I would say, yeah, but guys, your team was built 2 years ago to have the best run ever. You guys have built a great program for every year. This year, with the COVID hitting and the draft, not knowing who the heck you were taking, and you're losing guys that you didn't think you're going to lose, totally out of your control, right? Totally out of your control. So it's not you're not the loser. It's circumstances in a bit, and 100% you're going to be able to fix it. But you could see, like, just get me out of this. And then just talking to Seabass a few times, it was like, it's hard. It's hard when you're going into games and you're on you guys are working as hard as you can, but it's just your team's not at that level yet. It wears on you, and you don't like to lose. Like, I can understand, like, you just want to get through this, but it's like there's only so much you can do, and you have to realize that at certain points. Yeah. So that's what I just wanted to say, that about something kind of like real close to me. I was thinking about it, like that's a good example of that.
Yeah, and I'm in no way saying you need to like losing or look forward to lose. Like, I can't wait to lose today. It's like, you don't have to. That's not at all what I'm saying. But there's reasons.
You're learning how to win.
Yeah, there's reasons why you need to learn how to lose, and it's going to sound like things that, like, if you start talking about the benefits of losing, it's going to sound like, stereotypical things that you talk about. Like, why is it good to lose? Yeah. And it's important that you lose because, well, first, from the mental standpoint, you learn how to battle some of that adversity. You learn how to handle when things don't go your way. You're not just a suck ass, and you try to figure out ways to get around obstacles. That's a huge component of losing. Somebody throws something at you and it takes you out. It's like, okay, well, now I know that could happen again next time. So what do I do to get around that? And people frame it this way a lot. Instead of saying that you lost, you say that you learned.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
And that's a really popular kind of way of talking about it. And it's important. It's important because it helps you keep a better mentality about it. Because like you said, when you're losing a lot, let's say you're on a 6-game losing streak. I've been in that situation on a team, and mentally it's draining on the team. You can start to get really negative. You can start to not give a shit as much. It can start to leak into your life outside of just playing the game, where you're not caring so much about going to bed on time. You're not caring so much about what you eat because, like, well, we're going to lose anyways. Who cares? And if you're always framing it as in a loss, like negative thing, it's easy to slip into that. And I did that my last year, junior particularly, where it was just like, stop caring about so much stuff. Not even because the team was losing, because I was losing personally. Like, in my personal battles, I was losing. And that's why it's really important, where if you start to think of it in terms of, this is a learning opportunity. Why did I lose? Asking the question, doing the analysis to come up with reasons why or how you can overcome it next time. That's the most valuable thing about it. And I think that's important. So if you say, well, I hate losing, I don't want to lose ever, then what's going to end up happening is you never learn that. You never have that skill. If you're expecting to win all the time, you never have that skill. And if you're so focused on hating to lose that you don't figure out where you can learn, then you're not, that loss is going to come again. That loss is going to come again. That loss is going to come again, and you're not going to be able to get around it.
Yeah, 100%. You do learn. Like I've said this to you a million times. I said this to a lot of people, and like my biggest successes that I've ever had come from failures. And you hear that a lot, but I can say that emphatically. Like it's almost like when you're going through something, it's like you need to learn. Like when you do learn and you take action and you start doing the right things to fix it, you actually end up being a better version of that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, was it your preparation? Was it the team's preparation? Like take responsibility number one, and then you try to fix and you try to lead, or you try to implement that within your team and try to change things. And sometimes it doesn't work. But the other point that I was going to make on this as you were talking, what I think is really, really important is winning or losing, how you go about it is critical. Here's why. Because any player that's listening to this, truly listening to this to get benefit from hockey, or parent, if you want to help your kid, goes back to the same old thing. It doesn't matter whether you're winning or losing, it's how you're playing. Because what's your goal? If your goal is just your goal, probably if you care about this podcast, you care about the game, is to move on to another level. So if you're doing that, whether you're playing Adam Pee-wee or U8, whatever the numbers are now, through junior to even in the National Hockey League, how you play is going to determine where you're going to be the next year. So you could be playing for a contract. You could be playing for to get drafted. You could be playing to get traded. You could be playing to be a wanted commodity somewhere else. You could be playing, like, people are always watching you. So if you, and don't think it ever goes unnoticed. Like when you are down, your body language will speak volumes. When you shrug your shoulders and you go to the bench and you blame people, or you take a stupid penalty just because you're frustrated, and or you don't choose to go that extra mile because you know it's not worth it, so you think, then it comes out in the wash the other side. So losing as a team, yes, you don't want to lose. You like to win. It's a longer season. It's more glory and all that stuff. But how you play is going to determine where you're going to end up later. So you can't always look at life or your game as today. And that's what I said this to Charlie Seabass, all my players. It's like, don't look at your training or where you are today. Don't look at your season. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago as in 1 week segments or 1 day segments. You have to look at it long term. Where do you want to be? Where the hell do you want to be in 5 years or 10 years? And if you do the right things over 3, 5, 10 years, you're going to be in a special place. And it's the same with if you're on a losing team, right? If you look at that long term, there's a lot of things that you can do to fix that. And you go through the hard times, right? You go through, to get to the winning, you're going to battle.
Yeah, for sure.
Some teams are just good. Like, people are trying to figure out this Tampa Bay situation. It seems like a puzzle that doesn't want to be solved, right? They just keep winning.
Yeah, and the other thing too is you can start to frame it like losing is still winning, depending on how you handle the losing.
Yeah.
So sometimes if on a team level, you lose the game, you lost the game. It's not a win if you lost. That's fine.
Yeah.
But for yourself personally, you can take that as a win because it'll bring you a step up. And something that you said early on, you kind of touched on it, was a lot of your most important or most significant moments came from some type of loss. When you lost something, losing something, you learn and you grow from that thing. And for kids, one that could be really relatable is something like getting cut. You get cut from a team that you wanted to make, or coach tells you to go home from your junior team because we don't have room for you anymore, or you got called up and then they said, we actually don't want to keep you. Like, these are all things that can knock you out, can knock you out totally. And you can let them, and they will, and it doesn't even have to be that. It can be, you got a really bad grade on a test, you got fired from your job, whatever thing, fill in the blank with whatever loss you want. It can be things that can take you out. And a lot of times the difference with a lot of people that they have a bit of that fight that you were talking about earlier, that competitive nature, they come from things like that. They come from some kind of difficult situation where they were just getting handed shit cards every time, or loss after loss after loss, and they just kept fighting. They kept figuring out how to get around those, whatever the obstacle was that came about. And those are the types of guys you see where it's just like, man, that guy just. And in the context of hockey, it always ends up being the captains of the teams where they just seem to be the one that's laying out to block a shot. Like, dude, watch freaking Steven Stamkos play, man. It's like he is not even
just a goal scorer.
He's not even close to the player he was when he played junior. I remember watching him when he played for Sarnia. I remember watching this guy, and he was just your 101 stud offensive hockey player.
Yeah.
You know, goes to Tampa, has some injuries, losing the playoffs, whatever, and now it's like this guy. He's right up in the Crosby realm for me in terms of that leader of a team. Where it's like he throws a hit, he blocks a shot, he scores the goal. You know, and you can tell he's that kind of guy that he's been handed, even though it seems like he's like the superstar all-star guy that got everything perfect all the way. He's not the same as some of these first round guys you see, or first overall guys you see, that they never really figured it out, or they never had the same level of adversity to handle, or whatever, you know. So I think it's really important that you start to think about that.
He definitely evolved into something special.
Yeah.
Where in the C, you know, he had some pretty serious injuries too and battled back.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that a coach in the OHL we were having a discussion about a month and a half ago. He said that, you know, it's interesting to see guys that I don't think they realize how much I watch what they do. He goes, it's the little things like they come into the room, are they actually doing their mobility? He goes, like, we could tell them all they want, but are they actually coming in and doing it? There's mobility day. Are you actually doing it? Are you shooting the shit, listening to tunes and pretending? Are you getting your lift in? Are you eating? And he goes, I notice it all. And he goes, it all adds up to being something.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. We do the same thing.
Yeah, 100%. And then it's like, so you take that into the game, and it's like the same habits, right? It's, who's I watching the other day on the back check? Oh my God. It was, great, Kuch. Yeah, it was Kucherov. He had a turnover. And who are they playing right now? Who are they playing? Florida.
Tampa and Florida,
yeah. So I forget. Now. I don't know if there was a goal or whatever, but he had a turnover on the half wall. He kind of just scoops it, but he lost it. It was a turnover. And this guy came back hard as you possibly can through the middle. And it was like, that's how you back check. And I can't remember if they scored or not, but it was like, okay, there's your one of the most gifted guys in the NHL doing what he's supposed to do. Got the first guy back as hard as he possibly could. Yep. And you're seeing this a lot. If you really pay attention to those little details, those are the difference. He's won a Stanley Cup twice now. And he's not, I mean, you have to do your both ends, but that's why. You know, you got your best player or second best player or whatever doing all that dirty work, and Corey Perry blocking shots. That's why you're winning.
Yeah. And the last point that I was going to leave off of actually was on that exact note of people are watching how you're handling things. You know, so not only is it important for you the failure happens, you analyze yourself, you analyze your game, use it as a learning moment, all that stuff on a personal level is important. But the other thing is how it affects your environment around you. And this was going to be my last point to finish off the topic here, is that people notice who the losers are.
Oh yeah.
You know, and if you hate it, like in the name of hate, you act like a loser. Your team notices, your coaches notice, parents notice that are watching.
Don't get rave reviews.
Yeah, scouts notice. Everybody notices. So if not for, you know, your own mental attitude, at least do it because you know people are going to be judging you on how you're handling yourself in those moments where the going gets tough or you're losing or whatever. Yeah. You know, because the coach, like you said, the coaches are always looking for, okay, we're on a skid right now. Who's the guy that I can ask to help us get out of this? Like, which guy can I lean on to turn this around? You know, that's where the leadership group normally comes in, is that's who you would expect those guys to be. But it's so important, man, that you have that ability, because everyone's going to be watching, man. The scouts talk about it. We talk about it with the guys in here when they come and sit down. We talk about who's doing it, who's not doing it all the time, you know? Yeah.
So interesting. I'll finish off on this. Okay. I don't know how long this is going to take. Probably not too long, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
Say it a lot, but it's just, I've got a really good example here.
Okay.
You don't know him, and I don't even know him. So every year we're in the OHL draft, because it's close to home. We train so many players, and it's my kids' league, and so many guys are tight with us. You know, I love keeping up with the OHL. Mm-hmm. And every year for the last 20 years that I've been training, people put out their rankings. And they're doing it in the NHL right now. These independent study things have their rankings. All right. So they're never right. They have a few guys right because they're obvious. And then, so what I really enjoy is I'll look at them once in a while and you'll hear the hype. So you have your big teams that have the best teams, and people cannot fathom some kid from Chatham, Ontario can get drafted in the first or second round. I had one person talk to me and said, well, if my son plays in the Alliance, it's not as good of a league, right? I'm like, wow, no, that's wrong. So here's my example. Do you know where Holstein, Ontario is?
Not a clue.
Never heard of it? Neither have I.
Where is it?
Well, I had to look it up. And the reason I had to look it up is because I love this stuff.
Yeah.
So Charlie's team drafted a kid out of London. Okay. And I guess he was ranked pretty high. And he's supposed to be really good. The first rounder, right?
Okay.
Jet Lachenko. Okay. And I heard nothing but like he could skate like the wind, really good, crafty. One of the scouts told me, one scout that I talked to said he's going to be a lot like Evangelista. Well, that's pretty good. That's a pretty skilled guy. Cool. From London. Okay. I can accept London as a thing, right? All right. So cool. London. And a lot of people say London because you're not from Toronto, Chicago, whatever, right? Yeah. And they didn't win the OHL Cup. How can you get a good player from a smaller place? Like that's how people think, right? Yeah. So are you ready? So Holstein, Ontario. Well, what the heck is this? Right? So Guelph's second round pick is from Holstein, Ontario. He played for the Halton Hill Hurricanes. So I guess he was rated like fairly high, but for the average guy, they're looking at watching the Halton Hills team and they're going, well, no one good here. Like, but this guy obviously can play the game. And, from what I heard, he's that old school, like similar to Charlie. He's rough and tough and he's got some skill and stuff. And, but Holstein, where the hell's that? How can he be going that high? And these guys come from places and scouts don't. So my point is scouts don't just scout best teams because that means nothing. It's just where you live. They're looking for that kid that is playing on a probably, I'm speaking out of school here, probably middle of the pack AAA team.
Yeah.
Or less.
Yeah, or less. Yeah.
And this guy's sticking out like a sore thumb to go in the second round.
Yeah.
So it has nothing to do like if I don't know what the record was. I don't know anything like that, but I can tell you they didn't win the OHL Cup.
Yeah. Wasn't the Marlies.
Probably weren't. Yeah. They weren't anything like that.
Yeah.
But this kid, and there's several others that do the same thing. I'm just using him because I love the story. Mm-hmm. And I know, and then so what I see, like I love it. Like me and Wellwood were talking about, you keep taking these kids from down here because we drink well water.
Yeah.
Right?
No, that's right.
A little bit of farming. So I know the second rounder, he's got a little bit of farm in him.
Yeah.
Holstein, I'm sure it's not a metropolis.
Yeah.
I'm not cutting it up. I was just, so he's probably comes from some good roots. Probably a great kid. Don't know. Yeah. Probably a great kid. And he's got work boots. He got work boots. You know that he's probably when Coach George or whoever says you need this, this, and this, or gives him a little bit of shit, he's not going to cry and say, well, someone's been wiping my ass for the last 15 years. Like, don't do that. I don't like it. He's going to battle. And he's lost. But now you take that kid that works his ass off and can take a team that's average and stick out like a sore thumb. What happens when you put him with guys that can play?
That's right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
When you get him with guys that can play, all of a sudden you got a stud from Holstein, Ontario.
Yeah.
Where the hell is it? Anyways, I think, to finish it off, I believe it's north of Guelph and south of Owen Sound. Could be wrong. Right. Could be in Ottawa.
Yeah. Right. No.
But anyways, right? Well, I want nothing but great things for this kid. I swear to you, I hope he comes out and he's the pride of Holstein.
And
if that's how you pronounce it.
We get questions like this all the time too from kids. It's like my team here isn't very good. Should I go there because this team's gonna lose, and that team is better? And it's an important part of becoming an athlete and becoming a competitor and becoming someone who can be an impact player is being able to handle that. Like that is very valuable. People are very, very caught up in being on the best team and winning all the games and all that stuff, and they forget why it's important that you're on a shit team. Or you have nobody to pass to, or you have like, this is important.
You figure out ways.
You have to figure out a way to do it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's not to say that everybody needs that, or that's not to say that you can't do it the other way, but there's something just really likable about players that have that. You know, if you get the guy that can always just score all the goals and he's, you know, never had a hard day in his life, that's fine. But there's always a quality that people like about the guy that figured out how to work around this or deal with the obstacle, because you start having some humility about yourself in your game. And then if you're a good player and you have some of that, you're the guy that everybody wants in your team, man. Because you've learned how to battle, you've learned how to deal with a loss. Yeah. You know, and there's guys that never get that. And they're always a pain in the ass. And people always talk about them with a bit of a negative connotation, because they have that entitlement, or I always need a new stick or the new skates, or there's always something that's not my fault for the reason things are going wrong. And that happens all the time. So don't underestimate or undervalue how important that quality is. Being able to lose, being humble in defeat, being able to come back and get around the obstacle that knocked you out last time. Those are really valuable things, not just for yourself, but for the people around you, the people on your team, the people that are watching you, people that are scouting you, and to get yourself to a next level. That's a really important quality to have. And that's why I wanted to talk about that today. So that's my last thing.
So we'll take the McKenzie kid that was drafted to Guelph, right? I'm not saying he lost all the time, but he was not on the big teams. He stayed at his homegrown center and played there, and he probably did his fair of losing. But at the end of the day, guess what? He just won. He just became a second-round pick, signed with the Guelph Storm. That's a win. And then, look back to Seabass and Charlie and Andrew, their team when they were coming through Windsor. Like I never realized until I went up to, when we start going up to Guelph, like Charlie was going, these guys don't know what the hell Windsor is. Like what? And I'm like, it's the greatest city in the world. But they don't, they what the heck are you doing Windsor?
Yep.
It's across from Detroit, guys. It's the greatest city, but it's like so far down from a lot of these guys. And so you can see when they go to the tournaments, like they go, oh, we're playing Windsor, that'll be a win. And so I was really proud of that group of kids with B. There's some really good and Paranews. Like, I don't want to say names because we're missing them all, but they were a losing team, like bad. And they just kept getting better. Gibby came on and Paranuzzi came on, and they made the team a little stronger. But when they played some of the big centers, they'd start whacking them. Right? They started playing well-water hockey, right?
Yeah, I remember.
It wasn't all pretty.
Yeah.
And they were like, they had some decent skill, but they were like hard to play against. And they're in the game with anybody, and they beat a lot of those big teams. And people would be like, what the heck? And then you got, like for sure, Charlie Jerv that played in the OHL this year, and you've got Gibby that's probably going to be playing with the Sioux next year. Had a really good year. Paranuzzi's got some good options, and I'm not sure about all the other guys. And then you got McPherson's that they got their scholarships, and it's like from here. It's like, yeah, man, they come from everybody, but it's not always about. They know what it's like to have some adversity, and that's the whole point.
Yeah, for sure. So learn to take some hits, man. Yeah. Be patient with your progress, because the losing is an important part. So that's all I have. Have you anything else?
No, good. I talked a lot today.
Cool.